Hello again, and welcome back to the studio. First of all, I'm going to have a look at and talk about last week's work, and then do a new piece of work. This week I'm going to focus more on fluffy and soft textures. Still using ballpoint pens, with the addition possibly of a little bit of colour. And there are a few other things I'm going to use as well. So let's have a look at last week's drawing first. Well, last week I did this drawing, which you'll have seen in the previous video. The stone, the background, everything was quite smooth in texture, and I found myself making marks that depicted an even texture, one with not a lot of surface variation, not a lot of surface variation, quite smooth. And I thought it would be useful and interesting to explore some different marks. And during the feedbacks I was sending to people, I was working on this page, just trying out different ways of making marks, which are quite interesting, but all using, I find myself using quite straight lines most of the time. However, my model today is this cute creature. Vintage 1980s, I think. I think is a fluffy toy from my children's childhood. Now, one of the things I've changed since last week is that I'm taking the video in landscape format, so you'll get a better view. So what I'm going to be doing is using the book the other way around. I don't have a choice in the way I'm orientating the direction in which I'm putting the book. Right. So last week I had it in portrait format. This week it's going to have to be in landscape format so that it fits inside the boundaries of the camera right there. So Rabbit is going to have to recline, because if Rabbit is sitting up, he's not going to fit very happily in that shape of page. So I'm going to pop him over at the back of my drawing desk, where he's quite well lit. I'll put a picture of him in when I edit the video. So he's ready to model for me. I'll show you what I'm going to use. Because he's so much more complex in shape compared to the stone that I drew last week, I feel the need to do some work in pencil first. So I've got a 3B pencil out, made by my favourite company, you'll note. Just to give myself a plan, just a very light outline. I'm then going to develop my textural scribbling and hatching using a ballpoint pen. It's like a bluish colour, bluish purpley colour. And then I'm going to use a bit of watercolour. I've got a brush ready. It's a size 10 brush. That happens to be made by Major Brushes. They're quite an economical make of brushes that are also quite good quality. And I've got some watercolour. Okay. If you've not got any of those things, well, I'm sure you've got a pen, you've probably got a pencil, but if you've not got any paint, don't worry, it's up to you what you want to use today. But I've done a little test there, just tested out some marks. Got these like fluffy sort of marks here. Doing a little bit of a warm up. Oh, I'm getting a cast shadow on the page. I'm working with natural daylight today, but I think I'm actually going to stop filming in a second and put a work light on so that this awful cast shadow area here isn't too disturbing on the video. That's better, I think. So when I was playing around with these ideas, it's really got the feel of fluffiness about it. You can see there's no straight lines here at all. It's all round and round scribbly marks. some very, very light, others much darker. And I'm altering, like some people noticed I altered the angle of the pen when I was doing my hatching. So when I was doing a light mark, I was starting off with it quite lying down. And then as I developed it into a darker tone, I stood the pen up more. Well observed, you people. So you can get different intensities of mark depending on not only the pressure you put on the pen, but the angle you keep it at. So what I shall probably be doing is rendering the toy rabbit in these little scribbly marks, and then the shadow in the background by way of contrast in these more straight marks. Probably. We'll see what happens when I get there into the actual drawing. But do spend a bit of time before you launch into any drawing activity. Just get yourself calmed down and warmed up by doing some mark making practice. It's like musicians do. They tune up their instrument, they do some scales, whatever the chords, I don't know, what do musicians do? All those interesting exercises they do before they actually sit down to play a piece of music. Or a dancer warming up his or her body before they put a performance on. It's not to be expected that you just sit down and do a drawing without doing a bit of warm-up. It prepares your mind and it prepares your body. So spend, a good 5 to 10 minutes just playing, doodling. Okay. Right. Back to my new page. I'm just going to, as I said, just very lightly, just find the shapes on the surface, and I'll erase the pencil lines eventually. But as I said, because this rabbit is quite a complex shape, I do want to give myself some guidelines before I commit with the pen. It's entirely up to you, and it depends what you choose to draw, whether you feel you need to do this, or whether you're happy just to go straight in with your pen. And you can see, once again, I'm holding the pencil way back from the mark making end. It just allows me to make a really light mark, and also sometimes the movements I'm making with the pencil are hardly making a mark at all. It's actually the movements which are helping my brain to understand the shapes I'm looking at. I'm sort of searching them out. Whereas if you hold a pencil up here, the tendency is to sort of try to make the right shape and also make a much darker mark. This line across here because I want to line his eyes up, and there's already another mark here I made before, which gives me this more or less the centre of his head. Oh, lovely little wonky smile. Oh, so cute. Oh dear. Centre line marked in gives me where his ears spring off. Alright, now here, this is sitting on the edge of the piece of paper, emerges from behind this ear, and so line it out. Now then, I'm just evaluating the angle that I see this line like, gosh, it's quite hard to transfer it from looking at it in the air to down here. I'm going to commit myself to that, which gives me this inside angle, which I observe. So in perspective, the right angle of the paper that the rabbit is sitting on appears to form this angle. Of course, the paper goes right way behind rabbit. Yep, comes out. So it's another good way of checking that what I drew was lined up well. And then the angle here is much more open. This angle appears much more open than that one. That one's become less than a right angle, even though in reality the paper is a right angle. But in perspective, that one's become less than a right angle, and that one's become more than a right angle. Yeah, enough. Oh no, I'll just indicate where the shadow is. It's cast shadow. In fact, there are at least two cast shadows. There's another one sort of within this one. All sorts of light reflecting around off things, and it's going to change throughout the afternoon as well, but as long as I get enough information down now, that's a bit of cast shadow there too. As long as I get enough information down now, I can just adapt to the changing light. Okay, right, enough pencil drawing, and I shall start. I'll start drawing it with pen, and then I'm going to stop the video. You're not going to see me do all the pen work because I don't think that would be terribly useful, to be honest. If you see me start, then I'll stop the video and it'll be cut to the next part of the work, which will be adding colour, which of course is the optional part for you anyway. I feel that you can describe a lot about any subject that you draw by the way you treat the edges. Much of the information that we pick up about things is from a part of the object where there's a change. So at the edge there's a change between the object and the background, and as well as the way the light shines on the fur, fur fabric. As well as that, it's there's a lot of information just in the edge there about what the object is made from. So the stone, I tried to keep the edges really clear and sharp, which gave a feeling of the hard edge of the stone, its smooth quality. And it's very often, if you draw something hard with a soft edge, it's a little bit confusing because you're not quite sure whether you're meant to be looking at something that is hard or soft in texture. If you get this edge right, effective, not right or wrong, is it really, but just if you create an effective edge, then it gives a lot of information to people looking at your drawing, or yourself looking at your drawing. You don't have to show your drawing to anybody, of course. So there's one ear, more or less done. I'll probably go back to it at some point. When I've done everything, I'll go back over and darken any tones that I think need darkening. When I've drawn the edge of this ear, I'll just do a little bit of shading in this area. Then I will stop and carry on, coming back to you when I'm ready to put the colour on. Perhaps I'll bring the drawing over more to the middle. Maybe easier for you to see what I've been doing. So here the shadow is on the wall that the rabbit is leaning against. And I'm making a completely different mark. It actually is really difficult to see where the ear ends and the shadow begins as I'm looking at the subject. But hopefully, once everything is done and all the shadows are there, all the textures there, it'll make sense. That point there is where the ear sort of connects with the wall. It's leaning right up against the wall there. So the shadow is quite dark and quite sharply focused. And then as it gets further away from the thing that's casting the shadow, it gets lighter, gets more out of focus, really soft at the edges. So here's a way of rendering that soft edge. They all work differently, these pens. Some of them are more liable to get all gummy and you get a blob of ink every now and then. But I've just been accepting that as part of the characteristic of this drawing tool. Cast shadow, and so cast shadow on the wall and then cast shadow on the ear the only thing that's going to show that this is ear and that wall is this change in texture. Drawing an object that's, this part of it is white against a white wall. Another really good drawing challenge for you is to find something white to draw and place it on a white background. Okay, we're back. I've been working for, I don't know how long, maybe an hour and a half or something like that. And I've got all the tonal values rendered, all the texture differentiated. Enough pen work. So putting the pen away, I'm just going to erase any pencil marks at this point so that wherever I put the watercolour paint that I'm going to put on next, it's not going to seal the pencil marks down, because if you put watercolour paint onto the pencil marks, you can't erase the pencil marks. So I've got to get rid of them first, make sure everything's clean, and then I'm just going to put a little bit of yellow colour on where rabbit is yellow. Okay, that'll do. Just move you over a little bit. There we go. So that I can bring my paint in. Watercolour paint. And I've got out some colour. When I was doing my mark making earlier, I tested out some of this yellow colour, which is a lovely warm cadmium yellow. Just added a bit more water with the brush there. I'll test the strength out to see how strong that colour is. Probably about right, I think. I'll need to make it a bit stronger for his little nose. What I'm going to do now is just looking back at the subject, just dab a little colour here and there and see what it looks like. I've not got my pencil lines on anymore. I'm having to keep referring back to the subject to decide which areas are white and which areas are yellow. Okay. I'm sorry I had my hand in the way when I was drawing earlier. I apologise for that. These are early days for me in the filmmaking, so I'm hoping that I shall improve with practice, like everything. The more you practice, the better you get. And you'll find there's quite a lot in my videos at the moment which is far from perfect. But you know what? I'm just going to carry on doing them. I know you'll bear with me, because we're all learning and adapting to the changes. One of the best things is just keeping busy, isn't it? As long as you take a bit of time off from time to time, stare vacantly at the wall or whatever. But what a great distraction drawing is from anything that might be concerning you. The other thing is, I know that my voice isn't coming over very well for everybody, and I apologise for that too. I thought This time when I make the video I thought I'll just try and get my head a bit closer to the microphone and speak a bit more clearly, but I'm afraid my voice keeps kind of sucking back into my head. It's not coming out very confidently, but hope you can hear enough and see enough for what I'm doing to motivate you. Just adding a little bit more stronger colour into this little pool of paint here for Bunny's little nose. It's quite interesting. It's the combination of the blue pen and the yellow paint. Seeing a kind of greeny colour, which is okay. It's not unpleasant. Not exactly what the rabbit looks like. And also you can see probably the paper is bulging there because it's wet. Doesn't really matter, I'm not worried about that. Not making a masterpiece here. It's only cartridge paper and it will cockle when you put watercolour on it. Look how cockled that is there. But I have found in the past, let me just dry his nose, that's overlapped a little bit there. I have found in the past when I've worked with watercolour in a sketchbook that after it's dry and you close the book, the paper dries reasonably flat. Certainly doesn't really make too much difference to the way the drawings look. They're not going to go in a frame, so I'm not worried about the cockled paper. It's just about having a place to go where you do your practice, have some fun. I could come back after the paint is dry, do some more pen work, or even possibly add more colour. Don't know. It'd be quite nice to do his eyes. He's got quite pretty little they're grey coloured eyes. Okay, there you go. What do you think? Not sure if he's impressed. No. It's not giving me any feedback, are you? You're not saying what you think. Oh well. Maybe the people watching this will tell me what they think. Bye for now.